Sign up for free Stratfor Intelligence. Simply enter your email address to receive 2 free reports each week.
We've seen a lot of activity in the South China Sea with questions of Chinese expansionism, responses by other countries, and tensions building in that region. We've seen the Japanese, the Indians, the Vietnamese getting strongly involved. But it's not just in the South China Sea that we're seeing maritime activity in the Asia-Pacific. The South Koreans right now are looking at 2 new projects, a new naval base on Ulong Island, just west of the disputed Tokto-Takashima Island, and a new base on the large southern island of Jeju, which would give the South Korean Navy much more rapid and greater access to the South China Sea and beyond. The 2 bases in some ways are very different. The base on Ulongdo is focused on rapid reaction to get South Korean naval vessels to the disputed Tokto Islets. This is a dispute between Japan and South Korea that's been going on for quite a while, but ultimately is not a very strategic dispute. It's more of a public relations issue. The Jeju base, however, would be a very large facility. This is a facility that would be able to host Aegis destroyers. It would be able to host aircraft carrier. This really is where we see the major expansion potentially taking place for the South Korean Navy. We've been watching an evolution in South Korean military development for the past decade or so. One of the things in particular is the decision by the South Koreans to create, if not an independent military force that's non-reliant upon the U.S., at least a force that is strong, that's capable, and that focuses on issues of importance to the Korean strategic interests rather than necessarily just retaining themselves as a force designed to back up or support U.S. interests in the region and the U.S. protection of South Korea from North Korea. The naval expansions we've seen in South Korea have been a big part of this. South Korea is a major trading nation. South Korea is about the 12th largest economy in the world. A lot of that is based on trade. A lot of that is based on access to resources, access to markets. And therefore, ultimately, South Korea feels somewhat vulnerable in its supply lines and in finding a way to ensure that it has the ability to secure its resource acquisitions and its overseas operations. The South Koreans are certainly not carrying out this expansion in isolation. They do have an eye on what's going on around them. They've noticed the big changes in the Chinese Navy and the more assertive nature of Chinese maritime security interests. They've watched the Japanese, who very quietly have been developing a pace within the region and remain, aside from the United States, probably the single strongest navy in the Asia-Pacific region. And they're looking in general at an area that is growing more tense, is growing somewhat more contested, and that has become a lot more active both for exploration of potential undersea resources, but also in the sense of nationalistic defense of claimed territories. In the short term, certainly on the issue of the base on Ulong Island, this has the potential to continue to rankle relations with Japan, but those are largely manageable relations. It's really the naval base in Jeju that seems to be the most significant. This puts the South Korean Navy probably more active within the South China Sea, maybe even onto the Indian Ocean as they look particularly at their energy supply lines. But it also puts them in a place where in the South China Sea, which is ultimately a very small place, a very cramped place, it's an area that we're seeing a lot of maritime activity. We're seeing a lot of ships in the area. We're seeing a lot of aircraft in the area. We're seeing a lot of countries that are really trying to push their interest or their claims of ownership. And having this much activity in that area really leaves it open to not only the possibility, but perhaps the likelihood of some unintentional conflicts in the not-too-distant future.